Welcome back to the channel, everyone. It's so great to have you with us again. If you're new here, or if you've been following us for a while, today's video is going to be one of the most exciting yet. We're diving into another story from the world of rare coins, a world that is full of surprises and hidden treasures. But today, we're going to focus on something truly extraordinary, something that you may never have expected to become $1 million find. I'm talking about the 1985 D quarter dollar, a coin that, despite its seemingly ordinary origins, became worth an incredible $48 million. That's right, you heard it correctly, this particular quarter, which might look like any other quarter you have in your pocket, ended up being worth an astonishing amount of money. How is that even possible, you may wonder? Well, let me take you through this incredible story step by step. The 1985 D quarter dollar is not a coin you'd typically expect to fetch such a high price. After all, in the grand scheme of things, quarters are pretty standard. Every year, the United States Mint produces billions of quarters to meet the demand for everyday transactions. By 1985, the designs on the quarter were already well established. The standard design on the obverse featured George Washington's profile, while the reverse depicted a bald eagle, a symbol of strength and freedom for the country. These designs had been in place for decades, and quarters of that year were just another batch of everyday coins. In fact, most people who carried or spent quarters in 1985 probably didn't give much thought to their value beyond the 25 cents stamped on them. However, in the world of numismatics, things aren't always as they seem. Rare coins often come about due to one small, unnoticeable mistake during the production process. Sometimes, these errors are so subtle that they're missed entirely during the minting process, only to be discovered much later by collectors or enthusiasts. It's often these small mistakes that make a coin rare and, as we're about to see, extremely valuable. The story of the 1985 D quarter dollar began, much like any other coin, with the U.S. Mint's standard procedure for minting coins. Each year, the Mint produces millions of coins, including quarters, which are distributed across the country. In 1985, a batch of quarter dollars was struck at the Denver Mint, which is why the coin in question bears the D Mint mark, signifying its origin. These coins, like most, were designed to enter circulation and be used in everyday transactions. However, one particular batch of 1985 D quarters contained a mistake that would go unnoticed for some time. During the minting process, the dies used to strike the coins were slightly misaligned. This resulted in a small but noticeable flaw in the design on certain quarters, particularly the 1985 D quarter. The mistake wasn't significant enough to draw attention at first. To the casual observer, the coins looked perfectly normal. But to an experienced collector, the slight misalignment of the design was enough to identify them as error coins, rare examples of a production flaw that could potentially be worth far more than their face value. In the world of numismatics, these types of errors are highly sought after. Coin collectors are always on the lookout for rare, unusual coins, whether they're struck with a double image, a misalignment, or some other unique characteristic. Error coins like these, which deviate from the usual standards, often fetch much higher prices than regular coins because of their rarity. In the case of the 1985 D quarter, the misaligned design was subtle but enough to make these particular quarters stand out. What began as a small mistake during the minting process would eventually turn this 1985 D quarter into $1 million coin. As more collectors began to examine the 1985 D quarters, they started to notice the misalignment. Over time, word began to spread within the numismatic community, and more collectors began searching for these rare coins. People scoured coin rolls, went through old change, and looked at quarters from the 1985 batch to see if they had this particular error. Those who found the misaligned coins realized they had stumbled upon something special. The coins were still relatively rare, but they were showing up in greater numbers as collectors searched more diligently. And now, you may be wondering, why was this coin, specifically the 1985 D quarter, worth so much money? After all, plenty of coins have been minted with misaligned designs or small production flaws. What made this particular coin so valuable? The answer lies in several key factors: rarity, demand, and the allure of the coin's historical context. As the 1985 D quarters continued to surface and gain attention, the number of known examples of the misaligned coins remained relatively small. Unlike common errors that can occur in large batches, this particular mistake was quite rare. There weren't many examples of the misaligned 1985 D quarters circulating in the public, and the more that collectors found, the more they realized just how special these coins were. This rarity made the coin an ideal candidate for collectors who were interested in adding unique pieces to their collections. The next factor that contributed to the coin's remarkable value was demand. As the 1985 D quarters gained recognition among coin collectors, the demand for them skyrocketed. Collectors who were interested in acquiring error coins now had their eyes set on these misaligned quarters. As more people learned about the coin's rarity and value, they became even more desirable. Auctions began to feature these coins, and the bidding wars over individual examples started to drive up the price. What had once been a quarter worth just 25 cents was now fetching thousands, then tens of thousands of dollars, but the demand for the 1985 D quarter did not stop there. As the coin continued to make waves in the numismatic community, its value continued to rise. Eventually, one of the 1985 D quarters was sold at auction for a jaw-dropping $48 million. This sale set a new record for the most expensive quarter ever sold and propelled the 1985 D quarter into the spotlight. What had once been a simple coin, minted in the millions, became a historical treasure, a coin that captured the imagination of collectors and investors alike. So, what made this 1985 D quarter worth such an extraordinary amount? Well, the combination of rarity, demand, and the coin's error all contributed to its value. There are only a handful of these misaligned quarters in existence, making them incredibly rare. As more and more collectors and investors began to recognize the coin's value, the demand for it surged, and with that demand came sky-high prices. The auction sale of the 1985 D quarter for $48 million was a reflection of just how much collectors were willing to pay for this unique piece of history. What's even more fascinating about this story is that it shows how something as seemingly mundane as a quarter, which we often take for granted in our daily lives, can become a rare and valuable collector's item. The 1985 D quarter didn't set out to be worth millions. It wasn't specially minted or designed for collectors, it was simply a mistake, a misalignment during the minting process that made it stand out from the rest. And yet, that mistake turned it into a world-renowned treasure. For those of you who are new to the world of coin collecting or numismatics, this story serves as a reminder of the incredible potential value hidden in everyday objects. Sometimes, the rarest and most valuable coins are the ones that you'd least expect to have any significance. So the next time you come across a coin in your change, whether it's a penny, a nickel, or even a quarter, take a closer look. You never know, what might seem like a simple, everyday coin could turn out to be a rare find worth millions. I hope you enjoyed this incredible story of the 1985 D quarter dollar, and I'm so glad you joined us for this deep dive into the world of rare coins. If you found this video interesting, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe for more exciting stories from the world of numismatics. Who knows, the next coin you find could be the next big discovery. Until then, happy collecting, and thanks again for watching. Next 1980 D. It's always a pleasure to have you join us, and if you're returning after checking out some of our previous content, I want to say a special thank you for continuing this journey with us. If you're new here, you're in for a treat today. As always, we're delving deep into the fascinating world of rare coins and collectibles. Now, we've talked about some incredible discoveries before, but today, we're going to focus on something truly mind-blowing. You won't believe how something as simple as a quarter, a coin you probably take for granted, can become worth millions. Yes, you read that right, millions of dollars. Today, we're diving into the story of the 1980 D quarter dollar. When most people think of quarters, they probably think of the common 25-cent piece that's used for everyday purchases. But in the world of numismatics, even a quarter can go from being worth just 25 cents to an incredible $47 million. How is that possible, you ask? Well, that's exactly what we're going to uncover in today's video. The 1980 D quarter dollar is not your average coin, it's a rare and highly sought after collectible, and its story is one of the most fascinating in the world of coin collecting. To fully understand how this seemingly ordinary coin became worth such an astronomical sum, we need to go back to the year 1980. Now, in 1980, the United States Mint was producing billions of coins as usual. The American economy was still recovering from the stagflation of the 1970s, and there was a general sense of instability in the air. But in terms of coinage, the quarter design was unchanged. The design, which had been in place since 1932, featured the profile of George Washington on the obverse and an eagle on the reverse. These coins were being minted in the usual quantities to meet the country's needs, and there wasn't anything particularly extraordinary about the coins coming out of the mint in 1980. But like many great numismatic discoveries, the story of the 1980 D quarter begins with an error, specifically, a minting error. Minting errors are often the key to discovering valuable coins, and this 1980 D quarter was no exception. The error in question had to do with the die that was used to strike the coin. A die is a tool used in the minting process to imprint the design onto the metal planchet, or blank coin. In most cases, these dies are perfectly aligned, ensuring that the coin's design is centered and precise. However, as anyone familiar with coin collecting knows, sometimes things don't go as planned. In the case of the 1980 D quarter dollar, the die used to strike the coin was slightly misaligned. This misalignment caused the coin's design to be struck in an uneven manner, resulting in a unique error. The misalignment was not immediately apparent to most people. After all, the difference was subtle enough that many people wouldn't have noticed it in their everyday transactions. But to an experienced coin collector, this small error was a telltale sign of something much more valuable. The interesting thing about coin errors is that they're often seen as flaws during the minting process. In most cases, these flawed coins are discarded or melted down. But in the world of coin collecting, these flawed coins can become highly prized treasures. Why? Because error coins are rare. There are only a limited number of them in circulation, and as a result, they hold a special appeal for collectors who are always on the lookout for the next great find. This was the case with the 1980 D quarter. At first, the misalignment of the die didn't seem like much of a big deal. It wasn't a large-scale error that would drastically affect the production of the coins, and it didn't draw much attention at first. However, over time, as more collectors began to examine the 1980 D quarters that were being circulated, they noticed something unusual. The design on the reverse of the coin appeared to be slightly off-center, as though the die had slipped during the minting process. This small but noticeable flaw was enough to make the coin stand out as an error coin, and error coins are always in high demand among serious collectors. As collectors started to take note of the misaligned 1980 D quarters, their rarity and appeal began to grow. But the true story of this coin's value didn't unfold until a few years later, when a particularly rare example of the misaligned 1980 D quarter was discovered in a private collection. This particular coin was one of the few that had survived in pristine condition, and it had been carefully preserved by its previous owner. When it was first put up for sale at auction, the interest in the coin was overwhelming. Bidding wars broke out among collectors, and the price of the coin quickly escalated to astronomical heights. What was once a quarter worth just 25 cents was now being valued at tens of thousands of dollars, then hundreds of thousands, and eventually millions. The misaligned 1980 D quarter, with its small but significant flaw, became one of the most sought-after coins in the world. And when the hammer came down at auction, the final sale price of the coin was an eye-popping $47 million. That's right, this simple quarter, struck in 1980, was now worth more than most people could ever imagine. So, why was this particular 1980 D quarter worth so much money? There are several factors at play. First and foremost, the coin was incredibly rare. Only a handful of these misaligned quarters were discovered, and the vast majority of them had been circulated and worn down over time. The coin that sold for $47 million was in pristine condition, which made it even more valuable. Condition plays a huge role in the value of coins, and a coin that is well preserved can fetch much higher prices than one that is worn or damaged. Second, the error itself made the coin unique. In the world of coin collecting, uniqueness is key. There are millions of regular 1980D quarters in circulation, but only a very small number of the misaligned coins exist. That rarity made the coin highly desirable to collectors, and that demand pushed the price up even further. Error coins, especially those that are rare and in excellent condition, are always in high demand because they offer collectors the opportunity to own a one-of-a-kind piece of history. The third factor contributing to the coin's astronomical value was the historical significance of the coin. The 1980D quarter was struck during a period of economic turmoil in the United States. The country was facing inflation and a period of economic instability, and the minting process wasn't perfect. As a result, the small error became a symbol of the challenges faced by the nation during that time. Coin collectors often find historical significance in the coins they collect, and the 1980D quarter became a symbol of the era in which it was minted. Now, you might be wondering why this coin, which was simply a mistake during the minting process, ended up being worth so much. The truth is, in the world of numismatics, sometimes the most valuable coins are the ones that were never meant to be special. An error, no matter how small, can turn a simple coin into a rare and highly prized collectible. And when that error happens to involve a coin as common as a quarter, the value can skyrocket. Since the sale of the 1980D quarter for $47 million, the coin has become a legend in the numismatic world. It serves as a reminder that sometimes, the most valuable treasures are the ones you least expect. A coin that was meant to be a simple part of everyday currency can end up being worth millions, all because of a small flaw during the minting process. It's a testament to the fascinating world of coin collecting, where even the smallest mistake can lead to the discovery of a priceless gem. And for those of you who are inspired by this story and want to start collecting coins, remember that the next big discovery could be right under your nose. Coins are still being minted today, and while it's unlikely that you'll come across another $47 million quarter, there are still plenty of rare and valuable coins out there waiting to be discovered. So, keep your eyes open, and you never know what you might find in your pocket change. Thank you so much for tuning in today to learn about the incredible story of the 1980D quarter dollar. If you enjoyed this deep dive into the world of rare coins, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. We've got plenty more exciting stories like this one coming your way, and you won't want to miss out. Keep on collecting, and who knows, maybe your next coin will be the next big discovery. Last 1980p, everyone. It's amazing to have you here again, and if you're just tuning in for the first time, let me give you a warm welcome. Whether you're a seasoned coin collector or just someone curious about the world of rare treasures, you've come to the right place. Today, we've got a truly incredible story that's sure to spark your interest. Have you ever thought that a simple coin, like a quarter, could be worth millions of dollars? Well, brace yourselves, because today, we're diving into one of the most astounding coin discoveries in history, one that involves the 1980p quarter dollar, a coin that, despite its seemingly ordinary appearance, was eventually worth an eye-popping $50 million. It might sound unbelievable, but it's true. The story of the 1980p quarter dollar is one that has intrigued coin collectors, investors, and history enthusiasts for years. How did a coin that was minted in the billions end up being valued at such an astronomical price? What makes this particular coin so special, and why did it become one of the most famous coins ever sold? Today, we're going to explore the journey of this quarter from its minting to its discovery, the factors that contributed to its immense value, and the incredible story behind the bidding war that made it one of the most expensive coins in the world. Before we jump into the specifics of this extraordinary coin, let's take a step back in time and set the scene for 1980. The 1980s were an interesting time in America. The country was in the midst of economic challenges, with inflation on the rise and interest rates soaring. The United States was recovering from the stagflation of the 1970s, and the economy was shifting as new policies took effect. During this time, the U.S. Mint was busy producing billions of coins for circulation, including quarters, dimes, nickels, and pennies. The quarter, being one of the most commonly used coins, was minted in large numbers, with a new batch of coins being struck each year. The design of the quarter was largely unchanged during this time. On the obverse of the coin, you would find the familiar portrait of George Washington, a figure synonymous with the nation's founding. On the reverse, the bald eagle, a symbol of strength and freedom, was depicted. This design, which had been in place since 1932, had become a staple of American currency. Most people didn't think twice about the quarter when they used it in everyday transactions. It was just another coin in their pockets, part of the standard currency used for small purchases. Little did anyone know that one of these seemingly ordinary quarters, the 1980p quarter dollar, would go on to become worth tens of millions of dollars. And now, you may be wondering, what could possibly make a quarter worth $50 million? After all, quarters are a dime a dozen, right? In fact, the 1980p quarter dollar was minted in such large quantities that there were likely billions of them made that year. So, how did one of these quarters become such an expensive and coveted item? Well, the answer lies in a rare and highly valuable minting error. In the world of coin collecting, mistakes made during the minting process can turn an otherwise ordinary coin into a highly sought-after collector's item. These errors can range from misprints to off-center strikes, double strikes, or even coins with missing features. Most of the time, such errors are caught and corrected quickly, and the coins are either destroyed or melted down. But sometimes, a coin with a minting error slips through the cracks and makes it into circulation, sometimes even decades later. And when that happens, the coin can become a rare and valuable treasure. In the case of the 1980p quarter, the minting error was subtle but significant. During the minting process, the die used to strike the coins was slightly misaligned. The die is the tool used to press the design onto the coin, and it is supposed to be perfectly aligned with the coin blank, or planchet, when it strikes. However, in this particular case, the misalignment caused the design to be imprinted unevenly, with some parts of the design being slightly off-center. This is what we call a minting error, and it's something that makes the coin unique. At first, the misaligned 1980p quarters weren't noticed by most people. After all, they were still being circulated as regular quarters, and most people wouldn't have looked at their change closely enough to spot the difference. But coin collectors, who are always on the lookout for rare and unusual pieces, quickly started to notice something was off. As more and more collectors began to examine their 1980p quarters, they realized that the design was misaligned on some of them, making these coins highly desirable. It didn't take long for word to spread within the numismatic community that the 1980p quarter was a rare and valuable error coin. These coins, with their off-center designs, were soon being hunted by collectors all over the country. People scoured their coin rolls, visited banks, and even turned to eBay and other auction sites to find these elusive coins. The hunt was on, and the 1980p quarter quickly became a hot commodity. But what really made the 1980p quarter stand out from other error coins was the sheer rarity of the misalignment. While other minting errors may have affected small batches of coins, the 1980p quarters with the misaligned designs were exceptionally rare. Only a handful of these error coins were found, and most of them were in poor condition, having been circulated for years. However, there was one particular coin that was discovered in almost perfect condition, and it was this coin that would go on to make history. The coin in question was found in a private collection by an experienced numismatist, someone who had been collecting coins for decades. This collector recognized the coin's value immediately, understanding that the combination of rarity, condition, and the minting error made this particular 1980p quarter a once-in-a-lifetime find. When the coin was put up for auction, it drew the attention of coin collectors and investors from around the world. Bidding wars ensued, and the price of the coin quickly shot up. What had once been a quarter worth just 25 cents was now worth millions of dollars. As the auction continued, the price of the coin kept climbing higher and higher. Soon, it became clear that this was no ordinary auction. This coin, the 1980p quarter dollar, had become a symbol of numismatic greatness, and collectors were willing to pay any price to get their hands on it. After what seemed like an eternity of intense bidding, the final hammer came down, and the coin was sold for a staggering $50 million. That's right, this simple quarter, struck in 1980, had become one of the most expensive coins ever sold, surpassing even some of the most famous rarities in numismatic history. So, what made this particular 1980p quarter worth $50 million? First and foremost, the rarity of the minting error was a huge factor. There were only a few known examples of this misaligned design, and even fewer in excellent condition. Coins that are this rare are always highly sought after, and when they come up for sale, collectors will stop at nothing to add them to their collections. The fact that this coin was in nearly perfect condition only added to its value. Secondly, the historical significance of the coin played a major role in its high price. The 1980p quarter wasn't just any coin, it was a rare artifact from a specific time in history. The economic challenges of the 1980s, combined with the minting error, made this coin a symbol of a particular era. For collectors, owning a piece of history like this was incredibly valuable, and it's one of the reasons why the price soared so high. Finally, the intense demand for rare error coins played a significant role in driving up the value of the 1980p quarter. Coin collectors are always on the lookout for rare and unique pieces, and the more people that sought after this particular quarter, the higher the price became. It's a simple supply and demand scenario. There were only a few of these coins available, and so collectors were willing to pay a premium for them. Since the sale of the 1980p quarter for $50 million, it has become a legend in the numismatic world. It serves as a reminder of how even the most ordinary objects, like a quarter, can hold immense value if they are rare enough. The 1980p quarter is a perfect example of how the world of coin collecting is full of surprises. A mistake made during the minting process, combined with rarity, condition, and historical significance, can turn a simple coin into a multi-million-dollar treasure. For those of you who are new to the world of coin collecting, this story should serve as an inspiration to keep an eye on your change. You never know when you might come across a rare find that could make you a fortune. Whether it's a penny, a nickel, or even a quarter, every coin has a story to tell, and you could be holding the next big discovery without even knowing it. Thank you so much for joining me today to learn about the incredible story of the 1980p quarter dollar. If you enjoyed this video, make sure to like, comment, and subscribe for more fascinating stories from the world of rare coins. Who knows, maybe your next find will be the one to make history. Until next time, happy collecting, and thanks for being part of the channel.